I never thought my life would become a warning for others, but today I'm sharing this story so you don't feel alone. What I'm about to say still makes my chest feel heavy, because this pain didn't come from strangers. It came from the people I trusted the most. If you care about real-life stories that reveal the truth behind family smiles, please subscribe to Senior Stories right now, because voices like mine are often ignored until it's too late. My name doesn't matter as much as my experience does. I am 66 years old, and for most of my life, I believed family was everything. I believed if you loved deeply, you would be protected. I believed that being a good wife, a caring sister, and a trusting mother would bring peace in old age. I was wrong. Last year, my health suddenly declined. The doctor said I needed surgery and long recovery. Fear took over my mind, but my family surrounded me with reassurance. My daughter-in-law promised she would take care of the house. My sister said she would manage everything while I was gone. Even my husband held my hand and said I had nothing to worry about. Before leaving for the hospital, I walked slowly through my bedroom. I opened my closet and looked at a small wooden jewelry box I had owned for decades. Inside were pieces of my life, my wedding ring, my mother's necklace, gold jewelry saved for my grandchildren. I touched each piece softly, locked the box, and placed it back where it belonged. I remember whispering to myself, everything will be fine. The hospital days were long and quiet. Pain made time blur, but something else bothered me more. The phone calls from home became shorter. My daughter-in-law sounded distant. My sister stopped calling regularly. I told myself not to doubt them. After all, they were family. Within the first week, I asked if everything at home was okay. My daughter-in-law laughed lightly and said I should focus on healing, not stress myself. Her words were kind, but something in her tone felt different. Still, I pushed the feeling aside. If you've ever trusted someone so deeply that you ignored your instincts, stay with me. And please subscribe to Senior Stories, because what I discovered after returning home shattered everything I believed about love, loyalty, and family. I had no idea that while I was lying in a hospital bed, fighting for my life, a betrayal was quietly unfolding inside my own home. And what I found when I finally opened my closet again, changed my life forever. When I was finally discharged from the hospital, I expected relief. Instead, the moment I stepped into my house, something felt wrong. The walls were the same, the furniture hadn't moved, but the warmth I once felt was gone. My daughter-in-law greeted me with a quick hug that felt forced. My sister smiled, but her eyes avoided mine. I told myself I was tired and imagining things. That night, after everyone went to bed, I walked slowly to my bedroom. I opened my closet and reached for the small wooden jewelry box. My heart skipped. It wasn't there. I searched again, moving clothes aside, checking shelves, even the floor. Nothing. A cold wave ran through my body. I sat on the bed, trying to breathe, hoping this was just confusion after surgery. The next morning, I asked my daughter-in-law calmly if she had moved my jewelry box while cleaning. She paused for just a moment, then said she didn't remember touching it. Her voice was soft, but her answer felt empty. My sister laughed lightly and said I must have forgotten where I put it before going to the hospital. I nodded, pretending to accept their words, but inside, my chest tightened. As the day went on, I noticed other things. Cash I kept in my drawer was missing. A silver tray that always sat in the cabinet was gone. Important papers looked disturbed. Every small discovery added weight to my heart. I felt like a guest in my own home. That evening, I asked my husband if he had noticed anything strange. He hesitated, then said my sister had suggested selling a few unused items to help with expenses while I was in the hospital. He spoke casually, as if it was a normal decision. I looked at him in disbelief. Those items weren't unused. They were my memories. Later that night, when the house was quiet, I logged into my bank account. My hands shook as I scrolled. Withdrawals I did not recognize. Large amounts taken out without my permission. I felt dizzy. I confronted my sister gently, hoping there was an explanation. She said it was all for my care, for groceries, for bills. The numbers didn't match her story. I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling, replaying every conversation. While I was in a hospital bed, trusting them with my life, someone was making decisions behind my back. Someone was taking what didn't belong to them. If this story feels heavy, it's because it's real. And stories like this are why Senior Stories exists. Please share this with someone who believes family can never cross a line. What I discovered next didn't come from my family at all. It came from a neighbor's quiet words that finally exposed the truth. A few days later, as I stepped outside to get some fresh air, my neighbor called my name softly. She looked uncomfortable, like someone carrying a secret that was too heavy to hold. She asked if I was feeling better after the surgery, then paused. Her voice dropped as she said she wasn't sure if she should tell me this, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. She said she had seen my sister and my daughter-in-law going into a jewelry store together while I was still in the hospital. They weren't browsing. My legs felt weak. I thanked her and walked back inside, my heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. I wanted to believe there was some mistake. I wanted to believe my neighbor was wrong. But deep down, I knew the truth had already been waiting for me. That evening, while everyone was busy, I opened the family computer. I searched emails, messages, and receipts, telling myself I was only looking for reassurance. What I found felt like a sharp pain in my chest. There were records from a jewelry buyer. Clear photos. Clear prices. Dates that matched the days I was lying in a hospital bed. My wedding ring. My mother's necklace. Pieces of my life, sold like they meant nothing. I confronted my daughter-in-law first. I showed her the records and asked her to explain. She didn't deny it. She sighed and said they needed money. She said I was old and didn't really use those things anymore. Her words were calm, almost logical, and that hurt more than anger would have. My sister stood beside her, silent. No apology. No explanation. Just silence. Then I turned to my husband. I asked him if he knew. He couldn't look at me. He said he knew something was happening but didn't want to create conflict. He said he thought it was for the family. In that moment, decades of marriage felt hollow. The man I trusted most chose comfort over honesty. I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of them. I simply walked away. That night, alone in my room, the tears came quietly. The kind of tears that don't make noise but leave you empty inside. I realized betrayal doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes wrapped in calm voices and familiar faces. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, please leave a comment. Your story matters. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, please share it. Silence only protects the wrong people. What I did the next morning shocked everyone in that house, including myself, because I finally chose myself over fear. The next morning, I woke up with a strange sense of calm. The fear was still there, but something inside me had shifted. For the first time since my surgery, I wasn't thinking about keeping peace. I was thinking about protecting myself. I made a phone call that changed everything. I called a lawyer. My voice was steady as I explained what had happened. I gathered bank statements, sales receipts, and dates. I wrote everything down, even the things that hurt to remember. Each detail felt like proof not just of what they had done, but of the trust they had broken. When my family realized I was taking action, their tone changed quickly. My daughter-in-law suddenly cried and said she never meant to hurt me. My sister apologized, saying she was under pressure. My husband asked me to calm down and said we could solve this quietly. But I had already learned the cost of staying quiet. I moved my finances out of shared accounts. I secured my documents. I updated my will. I didn't do it out of revenge. I did it out of survival. Every step I took gave me back a piece of myself that had been taken. The house became tense. Conversations stopped. Meals were silent. I could feel their frustration, but I also felt something new. Relief. I no longer had to pretend everything was fine. A few days later, my husband packed a small bag and left. He said he needed space. My sister stopped visiting. My daughter-in-law avoided me completely. The house felt empty, but it was an honest emptiness. For years, I believed being kind meant accepting everything. Now I understood that kindness without boundaries invites harm. Age does not mean weakness, and silence is not strength. If this part of the story speaks to you, please comment below. Tell me if you believe standing up for yourself is harder with family than with strangers. And please share this story, because someone watching might be afraid to take the first step I took. What happened after they left forced me to face something even more painful than betrayal, but it also showed me who I really was. After they left, the house became painfully quiet. At first, the silence scared me. I had spent my whole life surrounded by noise, children, family conversations, responsibilities. Now there was only the sound of my own thoughts. But slowly, I realized the silence wasn't empty. It was honest. Living alone forced me to see things clearly. I replayed years of moments I once ignored. Small comments that felt disrespectful. Decisions made without asking me. Jokes that crossed lines but were brushed off as nothing. I had confused patience with strength, and loyalty with self-sacrifice. I stopped blaming myself for trusting them. Trust is not a weakness. Betrayal is a choice made by the person who commits it. Accepting that truth lifted a heavy burden from my heart. I began focusing on my healing, not just physically, but emotionally. I organized my home slowly, room by room. Each drawer I cleaned felt like reclaiming a part of my life. I removed items that carried pain and kept only what brought peace. I started taking short walks again. I cooked for myself. Simple routines gave me comfort and control. People often say loneliness is the hardest part of aging, but what they don't talk about is the loneliness you feel when you're surrounded by people who don't respect you. That loneliness is much heavier. What I felt now was different. It was quiet, but it was safe. If this part of the story connects with you, please comment below. Have you ever stayed silent just to keep family together? And please share this story with someone who may feel trapped by expectations. During this time alone, I received a message that reminded me I wasn't as alone as I thought, and it changed the way I saw my future. One afternoon, while I was sorting through old papers, my phone vibrated. It was a message from a woman I hadn't spoken to in years. She was an old friend who had moved away long ago. She said she had been watching senior stories and felt compelled to reach out after hearing stories that sounded painfully familiar. Her message was simple, but it stayed with me. She said, "You're stronger than you think, and you're not wrong for protecting yourself." That message opened something inside me. I realized how many people carry similar pain but never talk about it. Betrayal inside family isn't rare, it's just hidden behind smiles and silence. Knowing that others understood my experience helped me release some of the shame I didn't even realize I was carrying. I started speaking more openly, first with close friends, then with a support group for older women. Each story I heard reminded me that betrayal doesn't discriminate by age, and healing doesn't have an expiration date. Some women had lost money, others lost relationships, and some lost years of their lives trying to keep peace. I learned that boundaries are not walls meant to push people away. They are lines that protect what matters. For so long, I believed setting boundaries meant being selfish. Now I knew it meant being fair to myself. Physically, I grew stronger each week. Emotionally, I felt lighter. I no longer waited for apologies that might never come. I no longer expected accountability from people who avoided responsibility. Letting go of those expectations freed me. If this part of the story speaks to you, please leave a comment. Your voice may help someone else feel less alone. And please share this story, because someone watching right now may need permission to choose themselves. But just when I thought I was finally moving forward, a conversation brought back memories I wasn't prepared to face, and it forced me to make one final decision. Not long after that, my husband called. Seeing his name on my phone made my heart race, even though I told myself I was ready. His voice sounded softer than before. He said he missed me. He said the house felt empty without me. For a moment, old memories tried to pull me back into the past. He apologized, but his words felt careful, measured. He talked about mistakes, about stress, about misunderstandings. He didn't talk about trust. He didn't talk about the pain I carried every day since discovering the truth. As I listened, I realized something important. An apology without accountability is just another way to avoid responsibility. I asked him one simple question. I asked him if he would have stopped them if I hadn't discovered everything myself. He stayed silent. That silence gave me the answer I needed. Ending the call was harder than I expected, but when it was over, I felt clarity instead of regret. I understood that healing doesn't always mean fixing relationships. Sometimes it means accepting that things will never be the same, and that's okay. That night, I cried again, but not from pain. I cried because I finally let go of hope that was hurting me. I stopped waiting for people to become who I needed them to be. I accepted them for who they showed me they were. If you're watching this and struggling with a similar decision, please comment below. Your words may help someone else facing the same choice. And please share this story, because someone you know might need to hear that letting go is also a form of strength. After that call, I made a choice that defined the rest of my life, and it brought me more peace than I ever imagined possible. Today, I live quietly, but I live free. My home is calm, my days are mine to shape, and my nights are filled with sleep rather than fear. Betrayal taught me lessons I never expected, but it also revealed a strength I didn't know I had. I learned that respect is not something you demand, it is something you protect. And self-respect is the first line of defense against anyone who tries to take advantage of your trust. I still think about my daughter-in-law, my sister, and even my husband sometimes. I think about how easily people can choose comfort over loyalty, how quickly familiarity can hide selfishness. But those thoughts no longer control me. Instead, they remind me to honor myself and my choices every single day. I now spend my time helping other women understand that it is never too late to stand up for yourself, to protect what matters, and to reclaim your peace. Life is too short to live in the shadows of someone else's betrayal. Every step I took to rebuild my life brought me closer to the person I was meant to be, strong, independent, and unafraid. If this story stayed with you until the end, please comment below and share your thoughts. Tell me, how would you have handled this situation? Your voice matters, and your story could help someone else find courage. And please, share this story with friends and family, because someone out there might be silently enduring betrayal and needs to know they're not alone. Thank you for listening, for staying, and for believing in the power of truth. This is Senior Stories, where honesty finally finds a voice, and where every story, no matter how painful, teaches us how to live stronger.